About Abraham Lincoln. Actually, like I say, there were about eight other guys that were looking for him, looking for their wife or daughters. And there was also the Chinese. Apparently, he went to China and was telling the Chinese that his country would pay for any slaves that he took off their hands. And also considered most of China basically slave possible people. In other words, he felt that he could basically take anyone they wanted. Or something like that. I don't really know. I just know that at one of the places he was trying to buy eight female slaves and some male slaves from China, and he said that his country, would foot the bill and would pay for it, and that the money would be arriving later on, and he would take at least three women now or something like that. And he did this a couple times where he took three women or something, samples, he said, or something like that. And the Chinese government did not, or the Chinese people did not agree with that, and said, no, you pay now. And I think he pulled out his gun and shot, wounded one, killed one, or something like that. But basically, two or three women. There were a couple of different encounters. He went to a couple of different slave markets and tried to take women and some boys or something home with him. And there were a couple of different encounters. And China. I love China. Half of their people could fight, or all of their people could fight, and even men and women and even little boys can, or children, learn how to fight when they're young, copying their parents. And basically, China was one of those. It's one of those countries where everyone knows how to, or used to know how to fight. Pretty much, they all knew martial arts. Every single one of them. It was taught throughout. Basically, if you were Chinese, you knew martial arts, and so. He ran away, and basically China was going after him for about eight women or more, and there were also some missing people as well. And he was fairly well known, so the manhunt became very much international because he tried to write on the American ships saying that he was the American president, and therefore he had right to free passage to this vessel because it docks in his country's harbor. And, there was more than one, probably Abraham Lincoln. I'm not exactly sure. Probably as many as three or four. I'm not exactly sure. But we found them all, I think, because I had 16 or 32 people looking for him, plus eight angry husbands that were also looking for him for like their wife's death or their daughter or something. There were about eight angry men or so that wanted him very badly, or a couple anyway, maybe as many as three too. I'm not exactly sure, but they really wanted Abraham Lincoln and his son and his three sons. They said he had three sons that were usually with him, or he actually had like 50 or 100 really by the time he was done, because he had raped quite a few, and then he would go back to try and get the children or try and get the the woman that had the child or something to take her home or something. Or be like, oh, I'm going to take you home. I'm a rich man now. I had to run away because I didn't have any money back then, but I've come into some money, and I'm going to take you home to your beautiful house. And he would take them back to Amish land and chain them to the floor. Usually with hot irons. They would bend the iron when it's hot, and it would burn the leg. And yeah, so Abraham Lincoln became an international thing. We tracked him to California or somewhere. We tracked him all over the place. He had a horse, and he was riding the trains or something like that, and or the ships anyway. And we were tracking him all around the world. And I had 32 or so teams of people. There were 32 teams, like 16-man teams, basically, that were actually searching for him. And I had like 50 gold on his head or something like that, or 50 gold on him. And they actually found like two or three lookalikes, Abraham Lincolns or whatever. And I think they had some women that were actually had lived through the encounters, and so they were going to ID him. And positive ID. So, and I was paying for that too. I was paying for those people to go and positively ID. I mean, the whole thing behind the whole ID thing and positive ID and sketch artists, that was all basically what I was doing to deal with Abraham Lincoln and all these other people out there. So, I mean, Abraham Lincoln, I mean, when he called himself American president, he was like, into my life. I was like, hello, I am the real American president. How are you? And basically, and America wasn't a democracy, isn't a democracy. America is actually a aircraft company and steam train company, basically. I just happen to own the majority part of a country, which is called America, or the United States. So there's actually America, and then there's the United States. I am the American president of America, which is actually rail and basically White Star Alliance, shipping and rail companies. Basically what most people would consider the state-owned companies, except they're not state-owned. They are, and that's the beauty part of it. This money is not exactly, it says United States of America, but it is not actually state-owned. It's actually just America. This is my money, these are my dollars. So therefore, it's my United States. Anyway, I don't really know exactly, but basically, pretty much everyone wanted me to be president anyway because of my laws and everything else, and equality and the rules. And also, like I say, I was hunting down Abraham Lincoln because he had raped and killed slaves. He had raped and killed 32 women. By estimates counts, probably more. They were saying it's possible to be that there was upwards of 80 women that were raped and killed. They weren't exactly sure, but at least 16 or so. And they had about 5 that lived through an encounter that they knew about, that they knew that they were willing to step forward ID. And I was going to say like a gold piece or something like that, plus room and board and travel, basically to get the ID for him and get the positive match that it is definitely this person. Because there were like, because it's just a beard and a hat and a coat. Anyone can be Abraham Lincoln and that big jaw, whatever. And so like I wanted positive ID on these people and sketch artists and stuff. And I was like, okay, well we're gonna have to make it so we'll have to get them to do a sketch too, just to make sure we compare. So when they see the person, because I really wanted to know that this is the right person. Because I was also paying like 50 gold or 30 gold or something, some amount, or 150 gold for the real Abraham Lincoln that was actually the rapist and killer of all those women. So anyway, so we had sketch artists and everything, and they made a positive ID, and there were like 4 of them basically, and they actually, I think, caught a few of them in the act or something. That there was direct link, they said, between, so they were positive that there was absolutely definitely a direct link. So I was like, well, all right. And a couple of those people, anyway, dead or alive, basically. Sometimes I left it up to the person. It's like, well, you can bring him alive or you can bring him in dead. If he's alive, we'll put him in jail, and if he's dead, dead, well, then we'll put his head in a jar. That's basically were the rules. So it was up to the person who went and got them, whether or not, on the whole, dead or alive thing. So they could bring them in dead or alive, depending on how they felt. Just the head or the whole body. So sometimes later on, I actually paid more for the whole person. I was like, if you bring them alive, I'll give you more money. Because I really wanted them to be in jail and alive. Besides, I had this brand new jail, and I was like, there's nobody in there. I mean, come on, I have a jail. I want to put people in my jail. And so they kept killing them. So I was like, well, let's, I'll pay more if, I'll pay a third or a quarter more if we bring them in alive. So people started bringing them alive. So anyway, because there's more money. So anyway, horse parrot thing.